The next question is about live sets. So the second question of the Q&A of February is by Glico, who we've been working together for a live set of his that he wants to do. And so his question is about, I have a question specifically about your live performances. Yes, I'd love to hear more about your transition from one track to another and whether you use any special technique or approach when moving between tracks. Even though I have a DJ background, I still struggle to create smooth transitions from one track to the next. So I really appreciate any insight you could have. So, this is, I would like to answer the question kind of widely because there's different people that like different kind of music. And when it comes to DJ transition, there's DJs that make mixes that are really long and some DJs that make mixes that are really quick. And in certain scenarios, for certain genres, quick mixes are the best bet because it allows you to keep the energy and to also be able to layer the tracks without creating confusion between them. Some music that is a bit more linear can be mixed for a longer time. Therefore, you can have tracks that have long outro and long intro be mixed together. And then you can find like this sweet spot where the two together create a new track, which I call the concept of 1 + 1 = 3, which is the original track is playing, second track is being mixed in, so there's two tracks playing, and the combination of both creates a third track. So it's kind of fun to think that when you do a live set, you are playing tracks and then you want to move from one track to another, but that concept comes from DJing where you're making one song with the other. In a live set scenario, there's no such thing. You can have your live set could be a long song, a song that is long. And so you can actually just play and surf between what you call songs. And that way it will be up to you of deciding if you want to make long transition or short transition. But it's you don't have to limit yourself to thinking as a DJ. You have to think yourself as a performer. And as a performer, you don't want to always think like a DJ. You want to go beyond that. You want to create something unique. You want to create something that is you. And to do that, there's so many ways. And to me, if you're asking yourself the question of how do you do transition, I think you probably need to do a reflection of, first of all, playing more with the music that you have, and maybe think less of your music as songs, but more as scenes. You're moving from one scene to another. So I'll show you, before I do this, I'll show you, like, a few ways that you can do this, but I want you to think about, what kind of transition that you want to do. Do you want to do smooth transition? What I called blind transition. Blind transition is you don't even realize that you just move from one song to another. Do you want to make obvious transition? Do you want to make exciting transition? I mean, there's so many different ways, right? And to know what you want will sort of indicate what you can do. So I'll show you how I do it. And I have to say that my transition are kind of aligned with my own perspective on music, which is, in my case, I like things to be fluid from one to another. But in the last year, my mind is starting to change. When I was at the festival that I love, Mutech, and I attended pretty much all the performances, and Mutech is just live sets, so you get to hear a lot of them, and then you get to hear people have different interpretation of how to play live. some stuff works, some stuff doesn't work. And what I'm seeing is that the crowd is different than 10 years ago. And like what used to work as in live sets 10 years ago doesn't work so well anymore. What I'm noticing is stuff that 10 years ago people were not doing. Now you do that, and this is what excites people. For instance, BPM changes in a live set. That's something that I would have never really would have done. And nowadays it's like at Mutech, like the moments where people were the most going crazy for were those very abrupt changes from one to another. Like especially works well with like faster music where all of a sudden you go half speed, and that people go crazy for that, at least in Montreal. So for house, it's or minimal or techno, it's a bit different. But when I saw Speedy J, I saw that he would play a lot with the density. So that was his thing. Like between tracks, the transition, tracks would get like really intense and busy with a lot of effects and songs being fuller on the spectrum. And that would be sort of his point of transition. So I took two tracks here. So you see, as a DJ, I would start usually mix around here, and it gives me all this room for mixing, right? And for the second track, usually this part here is where I want the space for mixing in. Oh, they're not even properly aligned. So you see, the second track doesn't have so much happening in the intro. And what I'm hearing the intro here is like kick, percussion, a pad, a voice, and a little effect. The reason why I'm saying this is because if you want to know how to do transition from one track to another, you need to know how the intro from a track is done and how the outro of a track is done, so that when you mix your two tracks, you need a bridge where the track that is about to leave will have about as many sounds as the part of mix out of what you're about to mix out, you know, like in the mix in. So in the case of like here, I have two tracks. So I have one here. So that's a good idea of a track that could be mixed in. Like I don't have so much happening. I have a lot of space for mixing in another track. It could also be the outro. But of course, if you have a lot of elements and you don't have much space to bring sounds from another track, then it's going to be difficult to do a transition. Now, what I do is when I mix another track, I'm going to be just going by family. So for instance, hi-hats, I want to keep the hi-hats. You see just the transition here. There's this hi-hat here. Has like more intensity than the previous one. It's very similar. I think it's the same actually. But it's just, this one is more open. Okay, and then I'm going to transition from here. This is pretty open to this. So you see, I went from here to there, and then I will do the same thing here, same thing here. The only thing I don't mix, usually like when I go from one track to another, I'll kill the bass. And I'll try to find a melodic element that just works. Just have to see what I have here. Okay. But one thing that I like to do, and this one is named 1. It's usually, this should be the first sound. So I want, when I program, you see, this is what I play first, and at the end, this one should be the last one, right? So you kind of want to think of it as a puzzle. So when you mix out, you want to have sounds like this one should have space for mix in. And it's actually really busy. But then I would go from here to, so it's a bit abrupt, but I don't remember how I mixed it, but maybe I don't want to mix it like two together, you know, like a DJ would do. So this one is fairly open. Just gonna check with this one. Yeah, these two could potentially work. I find that it's a bit messy, honestly. I'm gonna try another one just for fun. So this is a better match, I think. So this is 2 track playing together. I can play with this. So there's a it's not a rule, but something I've observed when you play live, which is if you remove something, you don't just remove. If you just remove, it'll create a hole. But if you remove but add something else, then the substitution gives the brain like, oh, okay, this is new. So you're just changing the attention of the listener. So if I just like go from here, it's not too bad, but it's like a little bit, becomes a bit empty. But if I go from this. You see how now this is gone, so you're like, oh, okay, something has happened and something's missing. So what I can do instead is I can play this and then add these two, so that when I stop this, these two will start playing. So if you don't have like a push or something to play with that, that can be a bit tricky. So you can create these little scenes. So I'm just gonna take these. Actually, no, easier than that. I'm just gonna lower this. So I'm gonna play this. And now when I'm gonna stop this, I'm gonna play with these two. See, we just changed the attention. Yes, the hi-hat is not there anymore, but something took the place instead. So sometimes people tend to remove the kick a lot. Try to avoid that. If you remove the bass, it's the same mentality. I'm gonna remove the bass, I'm gonna add something else to compensate. So it can be another melodic element or even percussion, but it's the same thing for arrangements. Usually when you remove something, you add something else. That way it really changes the perspective of the loop that is playing, that is not falling out of energy, but more it's progressing, it's evolving into something else. So that's like one approach, this approach gives like I would say like smoother, very after hour feel. Like in Montreal, to play like this peak time, you would lose people. They're not into that kind of stuff. So one thing that you can do if you want excitement is you can have these pre-programmed clips that you can build, or you can automate like sending to a reverb and just like creating something dense. It's not really my style, so I'm not the best at showing this, but that was something that was popular, like I would say 20 years ago. Like you would just do these like white noise like and an explosion, and I'm just not so much into that anymore. I love drum and bass, which is like in bass music and break beats where people just like snap from one to the other. So that's something that you can do with the Ableton crossfader here. So that's something to explore. It's something that I've used in the past in sets that I've done, especially sets where I had the peak time and I had to just have a lot of energy. So what I would have is I would have like what I call a cheat. Uh, it's like I would have like a channel that would be B, and all my other tracks would be A, right? Oh, I didn't do it. That's so annoying. So what happens is that so annoying. So if I go to B, I don't hear anything, right? So if I go to A, everything is playing. So here I would have like noise and crazy things happening and just like madness, right? And then so I'm just gonna see if I can have like in my samples I have like a riser or noise. Okay, so I have this noise here. Okay, not the best example, but you probably understand what I mean by that. And this requires kind of like preparation of creating a bunch of modulated madness sounds, and you can have it there. Another way would be that you can have a macro that you create. There's like this pack that exists that you can look into. I've looked into it. I haven't found it like the best, but it works. It's by IFTA, and it's called I would definitely need to have a look at it. Unfortunately, I just can't find it right now because I completely forgot what it is. I just don't use it that much. But I know some people like it. I thought it was a bit CPU demanding and a bit clunky. But that was on my older computer, which maybe that got improved with the fact that I have a new computer and I have installed everything from scratch. So maybe it would work now. I'll investigate on that, and if I find something, I will share. So I would say if you want to have smooth transition, look into this option of, you know, having these by families, and then you just play like this. And you see I have two versions of each clip, sometimes three versions. This is usually a mix in, this is usually a mix out, and this is usually like a V2, so I can play this and it sounds slightly different in intensity, or maybe it has like different length. And then same thing with my melody clips. I have the last one is usually the one that I want to use for mix in, mix out. So as you see, I have a lot, and some are very, very simple. Some are very simple scenes. And all I do is I usually don't have all the clips playing at once. What I do is I do combination. Like I will have these playing, and then I will switch from this one to that one instead, and then this one will play, and then I'll find these duo of energy, and that is how I play live. And this is a recorded set, and I can check one transition that I did here. You'll see it's very simple. Yeah, so simple. Don't overthink it. Yeah, I think it's important to play. The more you play, the more you find answers on your own as well. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Thank you.